Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing today? My name is Russell Mills. Today is September 15th, 2025, on a Monday. I want to say hello. I couldn't believe when I heard about that guy, the Charlie Kirk, that got shot. So Charlie James Kirk was born on October 14th, 1993. September 10th, 2025, was an all-American right-wing political activist, author, and media personality. He co-founded the conservative organization Turning Point USA in 2012. Was as executive director. He published a range of books and hosted the Charlie Kirk Show, a talk radio program. In his later years, he became recognized as one of the most prominent voices of the MAGA movement in the Republican Party. Says Kirk was born and raised in Chicago suburbs of Arlington Heights and Prospect Heights, briefly attending Harper College before dropping out after one semester to pursue political activism full-time. He worked with various donors to fund the TPUSA rising to prominence via college campuses, debates held at his signature Prove Me Wrong table. He extended TPUSA's influence through initiatives such as Professor Watch List and mass rallies aimed at young voters, and has since been credited with generating interest, political conservation among American youth. This is under his leadership. TPUSA developed several affiliation groups, including Turning Point Action and Turning Point Faith, with a lady aimed at mobilizing religion communities among conservatives. Kirk later shifted to Christian nationalism, advocating a Christian form of government and Christian population. He sent buses of students to the rally that led to January 6th United States Capitol attack, for which he pleaded the fifth before the January 6th committee. A key ally of Donald Trump, he opposed a variety of conservative stands, including opposition to abortion, gun control, DEI programs, and LGBT rights. His more controversial views included criticism of the Civil Rights Act in 1964 and Martin Luther King Jr., his promotion of COVID-19 misinformation, his false claims of electoral fraud in 2020, and his opposition of immigration. This is on September 10th, 2025. Kirk was shot and killed while speaking at the TPUSA public debate event on the Utah Valley University campus. His death gained international attention and led to condemnation of political violence. So I think that was crazy that someone like him got killed, for this. I'm going to play something on here. But, says a tribute to Charlie Kirk held at the Kennedy Center. So let me see.
Hundreds gathered at the Kennedy Center in the nation's capital last night to remember Charlie Kirk.
I speak on behalf of the president when I say President Trump loved you, Charlie, so much.
Paying tribute to the husband and father of two for his organizing prowess and its advocacy on free speech.
Charlie lived by the principle that no matter how horrible another person's speech may be, their ideas must be defeated by better ideas, not by resorting to violence.
More details are emerging about Kirk's suspected killer, 22-year-old Tyler Robinson. Video obtained by TMZ appears to show him the morning of the shooting, walking to Utah Valley University, dressed in lighter clothes than those police say the shooter wore that day. Utah's governor says Robinson is refusing to cooperate with investigators.
He has not confessed to authorities. He is not cooperating. But all the people around him are cooperating.
Sources say Robinson surrendered after his father recognized him in these surveillance images and urged him to come forward. Utah's governor says Robinson's family told investigators that he was deeply indoctrinated with leftist ideology. Authorities say when they recovered the shooter's shell casings, they contained messages. One read, "Hey, fascists, catch." Another referenced an Italian anti-fascist folk song, and another unfired casing contained the message, "If you read this, you are gay. LMAO." Investigators also confirming they've now interviewed Robinson's roommate, with whom they say he was romantically involved.
His roommate was indeed a boyfriend who is transitioning from male to female. That's information that the FBI had mentioned yesterday. We can confirm that as well, and that he is cooperating with authorities as well.
Officials say Robinson had no military experience, but was proficient with a firearm. Multiple social media posts by his family show him posing with guns.
About 175 yards from the podium to the shooting location.
175 yards. And would you have to be a pretty proficient marksman to be able to make it, given those conditions?
Given the environment, that type of shot is not easy.
President Trump continues to blame only the left for political violence, not referencing the Democrats targeted in recent months. Trump last night saying his administration is now investigating left-leaning groups.
The problem is on the left. It's not on the right, like some people like to say on the right. The problem we have is on the left.
But other Republicans are striking a different tone.
You need to take the word radical and remove right or left. And radical coming from any direction is not good.
And Kirk's funeral is set for next Sunday at the Arizona Cardinals Stadium outside Phoenix, which can hold more than 70,000 people. President Trump says he will attend an award.
So this is crazy. Again, at the end of the day, this guy, he didn't have to die the way he died. But it's unfortunate because we live in a crazy world today that no one cares. And it's sad. You know what I mean? It's very sad that people like this had to die for speaking. But, unfortunately, some people, they don't understand. Oh, I'm going to play you guys something else, too.
Over to a hospital afterward, where sadly, we later heard from President Trump. Charlie Kirk was speaking. Those are some of the photos there at Utah Valley University. About 3,000 people in attendance as the gunshot was fired. He was rushed over to a hospital afterward, where sadly, we later heard from President Trump that Kirk did pass away. I want to discuss the case in general and what happens next. So let's bring in a friend of the show here. We do have Jillian Snyder, an adjunct lecturer at John Jay College of Criminal Justice and resident senior fellow at the R Street Institute. She is also a retired New York City police officer. Thank you so much, Jillian, for taking the time to join us here.
Good morning, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Good morning. Well, first off, I do want to ask you, because we know that within about 48 hours, we saw this arrest made, the suspect taken into custody after a reward was offered of $100,000. And also you had the videos and photos that were circulated. So based on your experience here, how common is it to see an arrest made in a case of this magnitude here within 48 hours?
As you just said, he was taken into custody within 33 hours, and that's extremely fast by traditional investigatory norms, but it does often happen in high-profile cases, and it's because you have so much interagency cooperation. In this case, obviously, we had so much media exposure, and then once the release of the surveillance footage and videos went live, you have millions of people across the country looking into this, and ultimately a family member, the father, is what we're hearing, recognized the suspect, confronted the suspect, and he was ultimately taken into custody. But again, we all saw the show the first 48 hours. We know that those 2 days are the most impactful for talking to witnesses, getting surveillance, getting victim statements, and collecting forensic evidence.
You mentioned the father. That's, of course, what we did learn about how the arrest itself happened and how he turned himself in. But how common would you say it is for people close to the suspect, especially a family member like a father, to be the ones who are alerting police there after seeing surveillance photos, videos, and saying, that right there is my son?
Honestly, it's one of the more common ways that big cases are cracked, and it did play out in this investigation. So the suspect's father recognized him, as we know, and a family friend reportedly helped get that information to a police. And again, we're hearing that the father urged the suspect to turn himself in. So normally people think it's the anonymous tipster's line, but in reality, it is often people close to the suspect, whether it be a family or a friend or an acquaintance, because they do have that inside information. They would more easily recognize that suspect once the video surveillance or surveillance photos are released online. So it does happen more commonly than most think.
When you're talking about the FBI Director Kash Patel and his comments yesterday, he said 11,000 tips and leads did come in over that 33-hour period there. How does that compare to maybe another case? 11,000 seems like a lot of tips from the public. And also, how do law enforcement officers, investigators there go about combing through those at a quick rate and determining, is this legitimate or is this a false lead?
11,000 tips is a great amount, but one of the contributing factors to that was the sizable reward. You don't often see a $100,000 reward offered that quickly in an investigation. You'll actually see the reward amount increase the longer the investigation is active, more as like an incentive for people to pay attention. So, but when you have thousands of tips, 11,000 in this case, law enforcement and detectives have to rely on a triage system to sort them out. So they prioritize tips that they find to be credible, but can be corroborated with evidence that they currently have. So in this case, they did recover a rifle very early on in the investigation with the etchings and markings on them. They did have footprints that they were able to cast into and, make comparisons. And they did have some video footage. So they're going to look at tips that kind of match or mirror those and prioritize those. They will still log every other tip, and they will still follow up inevitably on every possible lead, but they need to do it based on a triage system of what.
So I'm just going to say this before I get off in a few minutes. It's sad that when I've seen people say dance on his grave type of shit, you know what I mean? Like, I've seen videos, oh, that's not our fight. Like, black people say, oh, that's not our fight. And this is. So listen to me, man, the man died. The man got killed. Okay. I don't always agree with everything that I saw a lot of his videos, but I'm not going to sit back and say, yeah, I agree with everything that he said, but some stuff did make sense. But did the man deserve to die the way he did? No, he did not. And that's wrong. So again, like I say, at the end of the day, his wife doesn't have a husband and his two kids don't have a father. And that's that. Again, regardless, goes to show you how cowardly we are in this country. We're a bunch of cowards. And that's the bottom line. A lot of us don't care. We cannot keep our emotions in check. And that's a problem. So like I say to people all the time, you have to do what's right. Okay? And this man didn't deserve to die, the way he did, so young. Okay? In his 30s. Like, that's not right. So, whoever, this person that they're talking about, whoever, he's going to get his, man. He already has his, but it's like, you're going to get yours even worse, bro. But you know what? Thank you, Ron B, for the comment. Appreciate it. But this is what happens. Like I said, we live in a cowardly world where everyone wants to be emotional over dumb shit like this. And it's like, this man, again, didn't deserve to die. All he was doing was having debates. He didn't have to like, everything about him. Who likes everyone? Who likes everything about everyone? You know what I mean? You can't. So it is what it is. I'm going to say, for all the people that was making fun of him, in these videos and saying, oh, I'm glad he's dead and all this other stuff, you better watch what you say, and how you say it, because God's watching all of us. So you better understand that. So I don't wish nobody dead. I don't wish anyone dying or get killed. I wish everyone to live as long as they can, as long as God wants them to live. But Rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. Again, didn't know him, and that's all I got to say, because thank you, Ron, appreciate it. But it's the truth. I'm going to say this, repeating what this gentleman, Ron B, said. We have to watch what we say, because it will come back to get you, because God hears everything we say, and he watches everything we do. So you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to like what I'm saying, but, keep God in mind. Keep God in your heart, and understand that, look, there's only one God in this world. And, and he's the judge, not you. But unfortunately, everyone thinks that we're the judge and we're the jury. We're not. So, again, rest in peace to Charlie Kirk. And, it's just, it's sad that his family, has to go through this. But until people get right with God, which clearly people don't want to, this is what's going to keep happening in this country. Because, again, people would rather do wrong and be with Satan instead of with God. And it's like being with God is, I guess it's just hard. So, you know what? I have no empathy for the shooter. You know what I'm saying? I hope he gets whatever amount he is. If he hasn't been sentenced yet, that's it. But everybody, feel free to type in my name if you want to watch any more of my videos. It's Russell Mills, RUSSELLMILLS, May 22nd, 2017. My first video was called Why Black People Settle for Less. Everybody take care. God bless. Have a good day. Peace.